3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Good evening. It's Monday again already. Where has that week gone? Welcome along to Reading the Signs with me, Comedy John Ryan, and my pals from the world of comedy, showbiz, entertainment, and anywhere else I can find them, really. Every week we talk about mental health, mental wellness, what we do, why we do it, how we deal with the good times, the bad times. We want you to help as well. Let us have your top tips for well-being. Let us know you're there by putting comments in the box. Do give us a like on YouTube, SoundCloud, Facebook. Just tell your friends, really. And subscribe, of course. Very important that you subscribe at this day and age. Quick mention to Lost Boys UK for this fantastic theme tune. Have a look at my website, happytohelpyou.com. We've got great guests. We've got a great show. We've got a great audience. Let's get to it. And we're back. Welcome. It's been a few weeks, hasn't it? Lots been happening. It's Monday night. It's me, John Ryan, in the long sleeve top for the first time in quite a long time because it has got a little bit chilly out there. Even for the chubby club, it's a little bit chilly. I've got a new light, and I'm not sure what to do with it. It's more like a whoopee cushion. But anyone got suggestions about how you make this thing fit on a computer? Do please let me know. But it's Monday night, and it's me, John Ryan, as always. On a Monday, talking to someone from the world of entertainment about well-being, mental health, men's health, that kind of stuff. But before we get on to that, how's your day been? How have you got on? You having a good time? You happy? Have you done anything exciting in the last couple of weeks since I was last here? I've been really, really busy. I had a week in America and Canada, and then before that we had the Queen's funeral, and then before that I was in France, Spain, and Portugal. So it's been busy times. But you know what? We're back now. And now that we're back, I guess it's time to press on with life and to look at what it is that we're getting from our lives. So do let me know that you're there. Put your comments in the box. Give us a hello, a goodbye, whatever. Just something. Let me know I'm not talking to myself. So tonight, we've got a great guest, Martyn Davies. So good I named him twice. Or perhaps I should have checked my spelling before I put his name up. I've known Martyn for 20 years, and he's watched me develop from being an open spot to whatever I am now, really. But also, he's been part of my journey. He's one of the people that I've always found quite inspirational. He does bits of work with me for happytohelpyou.com because he's got an amazing story, very accessible, very decent man. And what I like about him, really, is the fact that he's just like very down to earth. There's no airs and graces. What you see is what you get. He's got an absolutely fantastic story because he's a really great guy. So it's a real honor for me actually to have him, because when I used to do my lockdown shows, he was one of the people that used to pop along and have a chat with us all. So it's nice to finally be able to get him back on now that we're doing it properly. So with that in mind, a bit of applause would be good. As we welcome, all the way from Sober is Fun, Mr. Martyn Davies. That's you, mate.
Evening, John.
That's your big intro.
I like that, mate. I like that. I was looking around for all the people queuing.
Looking around your arty flat with your brick wall.
Yeah, it is a little bit arty-farty.
Very arty, mate.
Got pink lights around the wall. This is apparently the in thing. Ask Nikki.
So you're further into Essex than I am. So I'm still on the edge of Essex. So we're still feature chairs in the front room where all the furniture matches, but one chair's not.
It's all about Govey lights. It's all about LED lights, apparently.
What about up the wall radiators?
Up the wall radiators? Nah. Underfloor around here, mate. Sorry.
Underfloor. Mate, I'm learning.
Who would have thought, John?
This is like an education for me. What have you been doing today?
I've literally been rushing about to get on for our little chat, our little sound check. I've been out for a run. I haven't been out for a while, but the benefits of running and the way it makes you feel afterwards, it's so good. But I'm really clever at going for it with something. I'll go running every morning. I'll go running every evening for a couple of weeks and then nothing. So now I'm back on it to try and just maintain a level, a good level of fitness, really, getting out a few times a week. So, yeah, got out for a jog. Been working today for the charity that I work for, which I'm sure we'll come on to shortly. But, yeah, not a bad day, John. A very good day compared to some of my days a few years ago.
So let's go back. Let's go all the way back to when you was a little boy, little Martyn. Where did you grow up, mate?
Where did I grow up? Well, I grew up in Witham, John, place called Witham, in between Chelmsford and Colchester on the A12. Grew up with my older brother, Jim. Great upbringing. Went to school locally in Witham. And then all through school, I was good. I say I was good. I was probably in the middle band. I never wanted to associate with any of the smokers or any of the naughty kids or the pot smokers, the real bad ones. Little did I know. So, yeah, I went through school. Loving life. And then,
were you academic? Were you one of the bright ones?
Was I one of the bright ones? I'd go middle band, John. I'd go in the middle. But I knew that there wasn't something quite right up here. If I'm honest with you, John, brutally honest, I felt I didn't know where to place myself, who to hang around with. I said I didn't want to hang around with the naughty kids. I didn't want to hang around with the boffins, and I didn't want to hang around with I just floated all around, struggled to find that group. And little did I know why that was. And obviously, as we progress further into my life and with the addictions that I've been through, I believe that, from the get-go, early on, that there was something going on. I was a little bit different. I was wired a little bit different to the average person. And that
you knew that from an early age?
Yeah, 100%, John, 100%. There's things I used to do is, that fear is at the root of all addiction. Fear, growing up, I was petrified that we were going to be burgled every single night. I used to check all the doors and windows, and I even used to take a big knife up the stairs to bed because I used to think that somebody was hiding. And that fear is just not normal. What 7-year-old kid does that? Goes up to bed with a knife. And I remember the obsession as well I used to have when the fair used to come to town, and I used to sit there staring out the window, watching the big wheel go round and round. And it's not until later on in life, John, that I pieced it all together. And those traits of early addiction, they were there. But obviously, whatever led me to where I got enhanced.
What was it about the fun fair that you liked there? I used to hate the fun fair. We used to call it the Merries in Ireland. Gonna go down to the Merries. And I couldn't think of anything worse than being strapped into a bit of metal, whizzed around at 100 miles an hour and wanting to vomit. I couldn't. Even still, Alton Towers, like, what's that all about? I just don't. There's nothing there for me.
It was the lights, John. It was just the obsession, like sitting up at the window. And, at this age, I'm probably 5, 6, around that, and just sitting at the window, just watching the big wheel, like every single night. I'd go upstairs, and my mum and dad had like a high chair, like not a baby high chair, but they had a high chair that I used to perch myself on the top and just watch the lights. Just watch.
Wow.
What weird.
So just quick shout out to Robert Van Buren. Robert, if you had the job I thought you had, you'd be able to analyse Martyn. But instead, all you can do is teach him to tell the time, mate. But that's how it goes. But thanks for coming along, Rob. It's funny though, Martyn, because like I've never really been a thrill seeker. Like I'm always very controlled, and I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I like having a laugh and fun, but like a high speed car does nothing for me. Parachuting, bungee jumping, nah. Sitting on a canal boat going down a canal about 2 miles an hour with a little bit of classical music. Now that's a buzz. That'll do me. But the idea of getting fired out of a rocket at 400 miles an hour, whee! Like, what is that all about, man? Do you think people are divided like that at a very early age?
Well, yes, I do. My story of addiction, as we know, I'm a believer, and from what I've learned, from people that have been before me, that have been through this illness of addiction. A lot of people say to me, have you had trauma? Did something happen to you as a kid? Did you have a really bad upbringing? And, as I was saying, no, it was perfectly normal. And not all people that suffer with addiction issues have been through trauma. Granted, a lot have, but you can be made a little bit different and a little bit.
Do you think it starts really early on then? Because I was
100%.
I was apparently a very difficult birth. I had to be pulled out with forceps.
Ooh.
And since that, well, that's why my head's got a funny shape in it. But also, since then, if I'm comfortable where I am, you can't move me. And, I'm really got to be like, come on, let's go and do this. I'm like, nah, that's not possible. I'll climb a tree. I'll just sit here and read a book. I'm comfortable. When I'm comfortable, I ain't moving. Well, would you be easily persuaded to go and do stuff as a child?
Oh, I was there 100%. I was whizzing around. I was like a Duracell bunny. And back then, there wasn't any diagnosis flying around with ADHD or, and into my recovery journey now, I do believe that there is an element of that in me, but I don't want to go that far and have a look now. But the whole addiction traits, from whizzing around like a Duracell bunny, obsessing over the lights of the fair. My dad reminded me of a good one a couple of months back. Apparently, I used to go into the garden and dig a hole. He'd come up to me and say, "Wait, what are you doing, Martyn? You've been here for an hour or so. I'm going to Australia." And the truth is, my dad would leave me out in the garden, which I find pretty funny now, because I was going to get to Australia, John. I was going for it. And the disturbing thing is, I was quite happy. Just go down the end of that garden. I'd be quite happy on my own. Just these adverse behaviours, the fear, carrying a knife, the obsession. It was there. And the drink and the drugs, once I had those type of behaviours, and as a child, I always wanted to be the centre of attention. What I found was through being at the back of the room, if it makes sense, in a social situation, if I drank a lot or if I took something, it brought me to the front. And that's where I wanted to stay, John. That's where I wanted to stay.
It's that thrill thing. Just a quick shout out, Steve Ashcroft. Thanks for coming along. Great magician, mate. When you're doing your Sober is Fun up north, you've got to get him on it. He's phenomenal. But what is it then that makes you so you want to be the quiet kid at the back of the class, but at the same time you want to be at the front of the class, centre of attention? What is that? How's your brother? Was your brother more outgoing than you?
Was my brother what? Sorry?
Was he more outgoing than you?
No. This is the thing. Growing up, he was in his bedroom teaching himself to play the guitar, to write music. He was on the computer doing programs. Very academic he was. And I was the complete opposite, chalk and cheese, John. I was the one that was whizzing round and 100 miles an hour. But obviously him being in his room, teaching himself to play music, that put him in good stead, later on in life, as we know. But
when you went to secondary school then, how did you then start with smoking and drinking and being one of the cool kids, one of the naughty kids, or what was it?
Well, okay, so I never wanted to hang around with the smokers. I never wanted to smoke pot. But round about the age of 16, I just found whatever group I was with, they were smoking pot. They were out in their minis down the country lanes smoking a joint. And I very quickly got included into that, but I was absolutely rubbish at it. I was more into my drinking. Yeah. I'd go out and looking back, I would always drink to excess. I would never just have one or two. It would be completely shit-faced, home, mum with a bucket waiting for me when I got in. There was no middle ground, John. It was all or nothing. But
isn't that just cool, like enjoying life or living life in the fast lane, burning a candle at both ends? Isn't that what we're meant to do?
No. Funny enough, it's not. I thought it was for 27 years, John, when I realised I couldn't stop drinking or taking drugs. And I was in my early 40s. I thought, hang on a minute, I'm still here. Where's life gone? Everyone else has moved on. Yeah. But, I then, at that age, 16, discovered that I liked to drink, but I wasn't very good at that either. But I would always end up completely shit-faced. So if I took a little bit of substance, if I took something called speed, or if I took an ecstasy tab, I found that I was drinking for England. I could drink as much as I want, John. And, round about that time, 16, 17, it was a rave generation.
Yep.
And I was out partying. And this is where that big turn in my life happened, with my brother. And at that age, 16, 17, he went off, as you know, into the showbiz world. And I wanted a bit of it as well. I'm the little brother. Hello. And I thought, you know what? I'll go to Butlins. I'll be a redcoat. And do you know what? I had a little taste of it. I went and I was a redcoat, first of all, at the Butlins in the Brighton Hotel. And I was just allowed to do what I want once I'd done my work. I could drink as much as I wanted to. I used to get away with smoking, what I wanted to smoke. And he was running side by side. Well, he was a completely different level in the showbiz game.
Yeah.
But if we're getting honest now, and I've spoke to you quite a bit about my journey, John, and people listening that know me, it took a while to actually discover why I continued to drink and take drugs into my 40s to a level that I didn't want to be at. And if I'm completely truthful, I had a lot of resentment for my older brother.
Mate, that's an admirable admission to make, really.
It is. And do you know what? It kept me sick, John. It kept me sick. The jealousy, he's got this. Why can't I have it?
But did you get on? That? Did you get on, though?
Do you know what? We did get on. We got on really well as kids. And he was sat in that bedroom teaching himself the guitar. Little did we know to go on and, be on one of the top 10 guitar riff tunes in the world,
In the history of ever.
He went on to do extremely well. And I was in the garden whizzing around,
trying to get to Australia.
He went off, but no, we had a great relationship growing up. And then I lost that in the middle of my addiction, John, when he was on the road. And I would say mid to late 30s was when addiction really took hold. And we're not talking about a bit of cannabis now. We're talking about cocaine. Okay. Yeah. Cocaine, alcohol, a lot of alcohol, a lot of cocaine. And it's just not fair that he's got this still. I couldn't let it go. He's got this. Why has he got this? Why is he? And I used to go round and I used to do a number of jobs on the side to earn a bit of extra cash. Obviously, because my habit, as you know, got quite big. And I'd do odd jobs and painting jobs, and I'd go round to his house and do jobs for him, charge him a fortune, just because I could. And terrible. But when you're in addiction, in the middle of that, you're very selfish, and all I'm thinking about is me. What can I get out of him?
Well, again, that's very honest of you. And I think a lot of people, that resentment. I never had resentment towards my brothers and sisters. My big sister, I was in awe of. Really, she was a head girl at primary school. She went to grammar school, and I could never understand her kind of jealousy or anger with me for being born. That there's a great old song in Andrew Gold, Lonely Boy. He thought he was the only one, but it turns out he was the only son. That I always thought of her when I heard that song. And it's really strange for people with siblings, especially if there's only a year or two between you, to see that rivalry. Like, I never ever raised my hands to my little brother, but I always wanted him to do well and be happy. But I never got the feeling that it was a mutual thing. But
now I've got to say, I've got the best relationship ever, and it's only through me putting the work in to get where I've got today.
Yeah, but again, it's you all over, isn't it, mate? You're a grafter. You roll up your sleeves. You'll do it. It's always strange though for people to go. They'll see someone on the street selling, homeless or selling big issue, and they don't realise how easy it is for that to be you or me or them.
This is it, John. And that stigma, you know, and I talk a lot about it when I do those talks with you. You know, I talk a lot around it. You know, what does an addict look like? What does an alcoholic look like? Straight in, there he goes, in the head, bloke on the park bench, brown paper bag, bloke in the gutter, needle in his arm. Come on. You know, move on. It can affect anybody, absolutely anybody. And if you've got this underlying addiction, if you've got the underlying illness already in you, and just in short, for those that don't know or are a bit naive to addiction, if I take one drink, one line of cocaine, I'm off. I can't stop. And the thing that happens to me is I have a reaction that doesn't happen in you. I have a reaction that makes me want more. It sets off a craving, the phenomenon of craving inside me, and I will continue to drink and take drugs until the bitter end, John, until I either run out of money, but I started gambling, and that didn't end well. To look after my supply.
Before we move into that, though, so when you left school, what was your first job?
My first job.
Was it Butlins, or did you do something before Butlins?
No, I went straight into be a redcoat.
So you went straight from school, straight to redcoat, where alcohol and other benefits.
This is why I've done it, John. And part of our job was to go round and do swanning, it was called, and meet all the families in the ballrooms and that. But we were allowed to drink on duty, weren't we? At 17, I'm having 10 pints a night whilst I'm working. And that is, I would say, so that's from the get-go. That's from, as I say, I was just 17 when I started at Butlins.
That's a child, really, though, isn't it? Now, when we think about it, you was a child.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was. And that did not stop. And as we know, with addiction, it's a progressive illness. It is a progressive illness. And what I'm explaining, you know, once I started drinking, I didn't realise that some people, he hasn't got an off switch. What's up with you? There's no off switch. There isn't an off switch in me because, I've got an illness. It's called addiction. And not only can I not stop until I run out of money, I get arrested and get put in a police cell, I end up in hospital or I die. That's it. That is, and these people that we're talking about that, you say about sitting by the roadside, they're very, very sick people. They are very, very sick people.
They need help, don't they? They need help. It's interesting. You've stimulated a feeling in Steve Ashcroft. He's passed away, and he hadn't spoken to him for 20 years.
Wow.
And it's that thing of, I guess you got a second chance with your brother. I mean, Steve's a decent bloke. He's just a very kind, caring man. But like yourself, it's that thing of he's a proper lad. He's not, what we used to call like an effeminate or a gentle man. He's a man's man, what used to be called a man's man. And even for him to have that regret, you've had a second chance not to have that regret. And that's kind of testament to you, really, isn't it?
This is it. And one of you needs to, you can leave it, with resentment. And you haven't got to be an addict to have resentment, obviously. But there's stuff in our lives that we hold on to, which keeps us sick. Those little white lies, those things in your head that you tell yourself you're going to take to the grave with you. No one's going to know what I got up to. Please see a therapist. I think therapy everybody should have it. You need to offload. And, in my journey, the stuff that I got up to in active addiction, I'm not proud at all. Not proud. And we're not, we do it because we're sick people and we're selfish. It's all about me. What can I get? As I said before. And for me to move forward in my journey, John, I've had to get honest. And
yeah.
I went through the 12 steps as part of my journey, and that freed me up. I was able to look at all those resentments and all that shit I got up to. I was able to sit down with my brother and explain to him, and make amends to him. Because some of the shit I'd done towards the end was horrific, and I don't want to go into that.
No, that's that. I get that.
Of how I damaged his relationship, and it was horrific. But it was just all about me. But then I got the help, and this is the big one. Asking for that help. It doesn't matter what's going on for you, what you're suffering with, what you're going through. It's being brave enough to put your hand up.
No, and that is fantastic. What happened after Butlins? Where did you go from Butlins?
From Butlins, where did I go from Butlins? Well, I went on because Jim was over here doing the big shows and
Traveling the world.
traveling the world. I was still going, I'm going to get there. I'm going to have some of this. He's doing it. He's playing in front of 80, 100,000 people. I'm going to have this. So my path went into DJing, and I started working for Jumping Jacks. Cruise. I had a cruise ship thrown in there as well, but I didn't get on with that. They put me on a very old one. And they put me as the DJ in the ballroom, and it was horrific. I'd just come out of working at Chicago's, all the party music, They put me in this ballroom, and I think the most regular request was Al Jolson and Peggy Lee. Yeah, it damaged me. But I had a free bar, John, port and brandy all the way.
You would find some way of making it brandy.
No cocaine, because I couldn't find. I tried whilst in the middle of the ocean, but I stuck with port and brandy. And do you know what, John? You do know it was. I lost it on that ship. I lost the plot massively, massively. I come from working in the party, from Chicago's. They still going now, or they've been rebranded? I don't know. But from Chicago's Jumping Jacks, playing all that party music, drinking, taking drugs whilst I'm working, obviously. And then I got onto the ship, and I had somebody booked to replace me at this particular venue because I got this contract on the boat. And I can forget this. I stepped foot on the boat with my music boxes, and I took a phone call. And my friend that was taking over in the actual nightclub that I just left, he'd passed away. He was found at the bottom of a cliff. Basically, he had to travel. It was down in North Devon. He had to travel one side across, and he didn't make it. And this news broke to me whilst I was on the ship as I just landed this contract. Bearing in mind, I'm suffering with alcohol and drug issues here. I got told that best friends just passed. I lost it, and I had to get brought back to Southampton. And before I got brought back to Southampton, I actually thought about it. I'm going to be honest, because I took myself out in the back of the boat and stood there. It was a force 4, sky, sea. And I just thought, do you know what? Just do it. Just jump. And do you know what? Excuse me, sitting here saying that now, it hurts, man. It hurts. That's the mess I was in with addiction. And then you get told a bit of bad news. And do you know what? My solution was to check out.
Yeah.
Check out. And thank God I didn't, John. And thank God someone found me. And I ended up the rest of the cruise on the cruise director's office floor crying in a fetal position.
How old were you then? How old were you?
This is the thing. I was only 22, 23.
Wow.
So I got brought back into Southampton. My parents picked me up. Got took back home. What's the first thing I done? I went out, down the pub, got back on it, and laughed it off. But at that early stage of my life, that was addiction, just hammering away to me at such an early age. And, from that moment, I went on, that was 22. I didn't get help. I didn't put my hand up for help until I was 41.
So you had another 19 years of suffering, struggling.
Yes, suffering, John.
Before we get to that, let me just welcome people who are listening to us on SoundCloud, YouTube, or Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you are. You're listening to Reading the Signs with me, John Ryan. Every week I have a guest, a mate from the world of entertainment, talk about stuff around well-being. Tonight's guest, Martyn Davies, is are you director, proprietor, owner, man behind Sober is Fun, which is possibly the best up-and-coming comedy circuit in the UK, where the comedy revolves around laughter rather than getting the punters to get drunk and taking a percentage of the bar. So Martyn's got a great story about addictions, recovery, and moving forward, which he's showing us at the moment. Mind if I just can quickly just ask you what your thoughts are about how you know when you're in addiction, because a lot of people don't realise, and trying to tell people, they don't hear it, they don't know. No, I'm all right. I can knock on the head whenever I want, mate. That fits into the first one, doesn't it? Lying.
Lying, John, is the biggest. The lying, deceiving, ducking and diving. It's hard work, John. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. And the thing is, it doesn't last. People see through it. And you start making excuses of why you're not showing up for events. Or you go to the event, you have one drink, and then you say, oh, right, I'm going now, because you want to be on your own. You want to be at home. You want to be in your four walls with your own supply. It's sad, so sad.
But then, why would you want to get better? Why would you want to change? If you're addicted, you're an addictive personality. We're all going to die anyway. So what's the matter?
Wow. The thing is, John, I'd had a good life. I have a good family. I have a very supportive family. And I become sick and tired of being sick and tired. It's an old AA quote. It's fantastic.
That's a powerful.
And do you know what? There's some people that I work with in my addiction charity that are never going to get there. I offer them all the help, the pathways to rehab. They don't want it. They are stuck. They have been living that life for so long, they're not interested in changing. They won't take the help.
Yeah.
But for me, I had that, right, let's get to the ending. Let's fast forward through all my addictions, gambling. Let's get to the point where I decided that I needed help. So I got arrested for something that I'm not proud of. And I had to ask my mum to get me out of the police station. I could make one phone call because I had no friends left.
Mm-hmm.
I'd exhausted all my friends, exhausted all my friends. They didn't want to be around me. They never knew what Martyn they were going to get, the aggressive, the ponce, the blagger. And she come and got me, and I was like, oh, come on, mate, take me home. And she was like, no, you're just coming back to ours for a minute. And I'm very spiritual now, and I'm a big believer, John, that what happened to me is meant to happen. The universe and all that. You know what I'm like. I got arrested for something, and I got sat down. My brother was there in my parents' house. He said, right, do you want to tell us? Did you do this? Did you do that? He'd been collecting information on me from my friends, from where I lived. They're going, your brother's in so much trouble. He needs help. But every time I went over to see him, I put the mask on. All right, how's it go? Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, all good. Yeah, everything's wicked. Yeah. But he could never get me. So this was the prime opportunity. And he held up bits of paper and he said, do you want to tell your mum and dad about your cocaine habit, your drinking, and while you're there, you're gambling?
Wow. My
first thought in my head, you can get away with this, Martyn. You can get away with it. It's been 27 years. You've been doing it 27 years. But something gave inside. Something broke, John. And this is where I said I need help. And my mum went to the doctors with me. That was on a Saturday night, and that was on a Monday morning. I was in the doctors. And unfortunately, doctors are not well trained. He was about as much use as a chocolate teapot, if we're absolutely honest, right? They don't get training in addiction. But I suppose he listened. He let me break down to him. It was another person to listen to me. And he said, you do know there's rehabs out there. And I'd only seen rehabs on TV. You only do. But I knew, I was the only one that knew how broken I was, because I had my life here and my mum and dad, my brother lived in a different part of Essex. So they never saw me at my worst. So I made a big decision. I told them I need to go into treatment. I need to go in. And I sold my house to fund it. The only reason I still had my house left, and this is ironic, it's not ego, it's whatever you want to call it, because I gambled so much towards the end, I managed to pay my mortgage, right? And I didn't default, so I had a property through everything, but I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have had it if I hadn't have got help when I did, John. The long-term ex-partner had gone and left me in this house because of my addiction. So I had that, and I put that up for sale. I sold that, and I funded my own treatment. That's how much I wanted it. And
it's just, you know, I mean, I appreciate your openness and your honesty because, you know, we spoke before. I'm from a long line of very successful alcoholics. Successful in that they all ended up killing themselves basically through years of alcohol abuse, and it's endemic in my family. So I remember my aunt when she went into rehab, we'd go visit her with my mum and my other aunt, and then afterwards she'd ask me to drive her to the off license, or go for her and leave the tins on the windowsill, and she was just playing a game. It's just playing a game. It's that thing of though, how do you ask for help? What do you do? Because it sounds to me like you were forced.
Intervention, John, and intervention should happen more. Intervention, you know, I'm so lucky that my family did, and I hated my brother. You can imagine. Yeah. I was hanging out my arse. I just got out the nick, and I was sat there, and he was, he was I didn't love him then, but do you know what? I love him so much now, mate, for doing that for me. But if I hadn't have had that intervention, I really don't wish to think where I've been now, because I don't think I would have been able to ask for that help. And this is the problem. This is why there's so much, isn't there, about opening up, talking. How are you feeling? Not just okay, not just fine. If I ask you how you're feeling, how are you actually feeling? What is going on for you? And we do need to all start doing more of that rather than just ask twice is a good one. You know, if you're asking your friend, how are you? Yeah, fine, all good. No, how are you? If you have to go a third time, go a third time. But people will get to the stage of not being able to physically do it anymore. They might have the internal snap, but I had that kind of with the intervention. Or some will go on to the bitter end, unfortunately, John, like you started describing family members. And this is the sad thing. There is so much help out there. There really is. And if anyone's listening that disagrees, get hold of me, chat to me. There is. I work as you know, for this addiction charity. And I put it on the plate to people that work with me, attend the sessions you need to in your recovery group. And I've got a pathway to get you to rehab. But they don't want it. Some are quite happy just where they are. Sad.
Yeah, it's just because I'm from that world. So I know of the 5 of us, probably when I was 19, one's dead. That was sort of drug and alcohol related. 2 are alcoholics. One of them, he had his stroke when he was 49 because of alcohol. Because people don't realise that the health effects it can have on you. And the other guy, he still smokes weed, but he's got it under manners. Has a few beers and smokes weed, and that's it. And but that's what they were born to. And 3 of them are relatives of mine. So I think there is a genetic link to it. I don't know if that's the case, but there's also like Martyn. He was the one who, if we were out, he'd have no filter. Come on, let's climb that tree. He'd be the first one up the tree. Let's steal that milk float. Yeah, he'd be the first one to steal the milk float. Great stories, hilarious stories about crazy things we did as kids. But the price now that like I say, one's dead. The 4 of us that are left that are now in our 50s.
And do you know what? All that crazy shit that you talk about, and listening to it, John, it's got the underlining. I was saying running around like a lunatic, and now that he's at the centre of attention, he's had a few drinks. Look at me, and we just go and go and go, and if you don't die from alcohol or drugs itself, you will die from the consequence.
Yeah.
In my journey of being sober, the amount of people I've lost, through either being sober for a period of time and then just picking up once, having one more go and not coming back, or they've had another go, they've walked out and just hit a car, got run over. And it is sad, working and being on this journey that I'm on, I've had to come to terms with it. And somebody very early on in my addiction, when I started to get well and I started to attend groups and stuff, he said, make sure you've got a black suit. Make sure you've got a black suit.
Mate.
You're going to be wearing it a lot.
God, I'm writing notes here.
It'll be in the book when I get round to it.
Mate, I'm going to kick your ass till you write it.
It is. It's nearly there. But...
So you went to get help and, and I was, honestly, mate, I was honoured when you asked me to come to your anniversary. Was that my 1 year, wasn't it, I think? Yeah, I was chuffed to bits. And, but I was inspired by the people that were there. But you know what made me sad was gorgeous young women, gorgeous young blokes. In our family, they're normally in there like the 50s and 60s before it all kind of kicks in. But it made me come away from that meeting and look at my friends again and see the ones now in their 30s and 40s and 50s, especially in Essex. They'll have a few beers, they'll have a little line, a little cheeky little line, just take the edge off. And you go, wow, okay, but what about next year and 2 years and 3 years and 5 years and 10 years and 20 years? And then now they get into their 50s, they've got debts, they've got, they're running up a bill that they can't pay. And then when I talk to them, because I'm very on it, I'm just fed up with people crying. Because that makes them just sad and they want to go and have a drink.
You've got to want to change. This is the bottom line in anything. The people I work with in the charity, you've got to be ready. You've got to be ready. And if going in and out of hospital 60 times in 1 year, like I've worked with someone and I've managed to get him into rehab and he's like a couple of months sober. And this is like somebody that actually wants it. I never gave up on this person that I'm working with, and he's managed to do it because he did want it. But you've got to be at that stage of bustedness to grab this. It sounds to somebody listening in that might not really get this. You've got to be at that stage of having enough, and whatever you having enough is different from my having enough. Do you know? Your life needs to get that unmanageable. You might need to get on the street. You might need to lose the nice car, the nice house, the nice girlfriend. You might need your bum in a doorway before you get what I've got.
I wanted to talk about barriers to addiction. And I think from all the reading I've done about it, it seems to be that the main one is that people they're not ready to stop using. They're not ready to stop.
No, but this is it.
Then how do we overcome that? How do we kind of... What do you do if it's
until John, you get a lot of consequences coming in your life. You just think everything's cool. You just think, just a little bit of this, little dabble of this. No one knows. In fact, everybody around you knows because you stick out like a sore thumb if you. It's a tricky one.
It is, and then it's about how do you speak to someone, and it's about. For me, it's boundaries. I won't lend money to anyone, especially if I know that they like a drink or a bit of gear, because they'll always pay it back, but they'll be borrowing it off someone else to pay it back. It's that thing about you got to be consistent and have them clear boundaries. We've got a really good friend at the moment who is 57, who mate, she ain't got long left. She carries on as she is. And it's not even sadness. People go, there must be such sadness in their life. No, it's not. They just like it. Some people just like it.
No, they do, John. And like I said to you at the very beginning, there's not always trauma there. There's, people just carry on.
And that's
and if you're faced with that friends or that family, like it says, be there as an ear to listen. Let them know that you're there. And they've got to be ready. But you can always give a little nudge of, they can walk into a fellowship meeting, CA, AA, GA, NA, all the A's, you can just walk in. And if people are aware of this, that these meetings are out there, I'd heard of AA on the TV and in films. And I always just thought that's where the drunks, the people in the park with the brown paper bag go, right? That stigma, you know, that I was that person. But do you know what? It opens up a whole new world. If you're struggling on your own and you walk into one of these rooms full of people just like you, it is amazing. And you've witnessed it. So if you have got someone struggling, please, you know, don't keep on, because they've got to be ready, and they will get pissed off and they'll drink or take more drugs because you're on their case.
But you see, what people don't realise is that one of the problems with addiction, whilst it can be a lonely and isolating experience, these one group of friends I've got, there's 5 of them, they reinforce it with each other. If one wants to stop, the other 4 ain't letting them go. Don't be like that. Come and have a drink, mate. Listen, have a spliff, have a little line. Stop. You're just going through a bad time, mate. Because addicts, they don't want to be around ex-addicts.
No. Active addicts, active addicts. Because my friendship groups, when I come out of treatment, that had to change, you know, because I just, you can't, if you want to start a new life, you can't hang on to the old idea. I have got a few people, and I can count on one hand, who's in my life from back in the day, because I've had to be aware and have boundaries that I don't want to have all this around me. I'm going forward, and that is a hard one at the beginning. But I wanted recovery that much, and I wanted to be sober. I've done what was necessary, and here I am. I've put the work in, and I do put the work in every single day. I do work on myself every single day. It's not taken for granted. There's certain rituals, certain little routine that I've got before I leave the house every morning.
See, that's because the thing about addiction is, it's also habit forming, isn't it? It's habit forming. And so
Haribo's, chocolate biscuits. What am I on at the moment?
People don't know the secret of Haribo's, mate. They don't know Haribo's.
I had to live with the old man and my mum when I come out of treatment, because obviously I sold my house. And there was a corner shop not far from where they were. And of an evening, I'm just popping down the shop. They're like, again? What? And I'd come back with all these bags of sweets. My dad would just sit there and watch me and just be like, "You just had a bag?" And like, so. And it obviously was the sugar replacement. But addiction is like a game of whack-a-mole, right? You can stop drinking or stop taking cocaine, right? Keep them, they've gone. And then your Haribo's will spring up, or your online shopping will spring up.
Yeah.
You know, or your exercise will pop up every single morning at 6 o'clock. I've got to go running. Honestly, it has to come out somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm very mindful of that. But today, I've got the awareness that.
And you've done more than just your awareness, because let's tell us about Sober is Fun, what that's all about, and where you got the idea from.
Well, as you know, before I completely lost it and went into treatment, I was working in the professional comedy industry, booking shows and putting on comedy nights. But I got sober. I went back into that role, but I just couldn't do it anymore sober. I just could not do it sober. I needed to do something for myself, and I came up with this idea about removing alcohol from professional comedy nights. And I suggested it to where I was working before and got laughed at in the face. It's never going to work. And that gave me more energy, more passion to make it work, John. It's been told that it's not going to work. The thing is, what you can't see is what I can see. Being in the recovery side, the amount of people that are in recovery, or the amount of people that just don't like being around people that are pissed.
Yeah.
You know, this Sober is Fun initially started out as a little way of giving back, because I had all the contacts and yourself and load of good people. I set up, I think you was on one of the first ones I've done in Essex, in Chelmsford.
Yeah, in Chelmsford.
And it sold out. It was like a small room, 40, 50 people, just like that, just went, okay. And I carried on doing it, and I had to move to a bigger place in Chelmsford. And then I thought, you know what? I want to get this in London. And just before, well, about 6 months before the pandemic struck, I found a bar in East London, and I put on 2 shows there. You was on that one as well.
Oh, was mate?
Yeah.
There's a pattern there. There's a pattern there, isn't there?
So yeah, I done it in London, and there was a small turnout, but you really couldn't get any more people in the bar.
Yeah.
And then lockdown happened, and I thought, do you know what? I can just let this all fizzle out now, or I can just really go for it now. And you know, I approached, as you know, the backyard, and yeah, they'd heard of it, and I think a lot of people had heard about it. A lot of people had laughed about it in the professional comedy industry. I know that.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that aren't working for me, clearly. You know, nobody could see through what I was trying to do. But it's not until you come and play one of these gigs, or, you know.
Yeah, they're great. They're just great.
And it's grown. You know, I said it was predominantly for people in recovery. We just got people that drink that want to take the afternoon off. Yeah. And the shows happen purposely in the middle of a Sunday afternoon at 3:30. You can have 4 good comedians, massive range of alcohol-free drinks. You know, if the beers are your thing, alcohol-free beers, they stock loads of them. It's just different. It's just different. And you haven't got those pissed up people, coked up people going to the toilet 10 times a minute, talking bollocks in your ear. You haven't got all that going on. But it is hard work. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Promoting, doesn't matter what you're promoting in this current climate and how much money you put into promoting. It's
yeah.
We still need supporting. I think that's for all live entertainment. It is, and I get that we've all got to tighten up with what's going on. And I just feel that, you know, some of the acts I see that aren't working or aren't regularly working, or some clubs that are having to sponsor posts, and it's tough. It's tough out there. And, you know, so anyone listening, if you have got a few quid, you know, make sure you continue to support live
entertainment. Finally, mate, what would be your one positive? What would you say to someone if they're worried about a mate, or they're worried about a relative or a friend? You don't want to get help. What's the thing?
One thing, just be there for them. Just be there. Just be an ear for them and tell them. Let them know. You know, we've talked about tonight the signs of addiction, the ducking and diving. You can physically see it, the withdrawn face, you know, the dark eyes, the obvious smelling of booze in the morning, which is very abnormal. That become normal. I made that normal. I thought everyone stunk of booze when they went to work.
Sure.
I've just thought it was normal, but you know, there is a lot of telltale signs, and sometimes it is letting these people know that you do actually know, and make them a little bit uncomfortable. Not too much.
Yeah.
But just be there for them. And the best time you can approach someone that is struggling with addiction is after that binge. It's after they've been on it for 4 days, after they've been on it and they're at that little low point, or not little, that big low point, you know, life's shit, don't want to go on. You know, do you want to have a chat? Do you fancy just going for a walk? Come for a coffee? Get them talking. That is the best time to get someone. If you've got someone that's drunk, high,
no point.
No, there's no point.
No point. Well, mate, as always, absolute pleasure. The last hour's just flown by.
I can't believe it's been an hour.
I'll tell you, mate, you hang about. I'll give it to you. I'll come back and chat to you when we've finished. But in the meantime, mate, good luck with whatever you do. You are an inspiration, man, and you do make a difference. And I think that all you can hope as a person is to make a difference. And you certainly are that, mate. Dead proud of you.
Thank you, John.
So that's Martyn Davies, just an amazing guy. Steve Ashcroft, mate, thank you so much for your comments tonight. And Robert. Martyn was very, very honest, very open, talked about, you know, getting to the bottom of the barrel, dark days. And these things happen. They happen to all of us. And when they do, it's about who's there to help you. Well, we got to be there to help other people and hope other people are there to help us. As we move in towards the winter now, the evenings draw in, and like it or not, a lot of people suffer from seasonal affective disorder, where they oversleep, they get tired during the day, they crave junk food, put on weight. It's a natural phenomenon. And what better way to get over your seasonally affective disorder than to go and get drunk? As Martyn said, it's a slippery slope. He's not saying don't drink at all. I think what he's saying was that some people can either be all or nothing. And if you are one of those all or nothing people, it's going to be a lot harder. Really, really impressed with the fact that he mentioned how to talk to someone going through addiction. It's about being kind and accepting, help them find support, setting boundaries, be consistent, listen more than you speak. I've been fortunate or unfortunate in that I have had several mates who've gone on to be drug addicts or alcoholics. As I mentioned there, I've lost a couple of people to that, not just in my family, but in my friendship groups. So I'm very aware, I guess, more so than most people, of the signs and how quickly people can deteriorate. It's not the end of the world, as Martyn has said and shown with his great Sober is Fun comedy clubs that he runs. There is a lot of people out there who may be going through stuff that you're going through, or maybe going through stuff that someone you care about is going through. There is support out there. There is help out there. If you can't ask for help, then hope that someone asks you if you need help. It's about, I guess, sometimes we need to take it on board and go, I'm going to be that person that is going to offer the help, or at least look, not just with my eyes, but with my heart. I know if I had an American accent, it would sound much better, hey guys, listen with your heart, not just your eyes, not just your ears, just your elbows. It's that whole thing though, isn't it, where we're British and we like to kind of, that's not my business, is it? Is it my business really to, I'm not sure. It is difficult, and it's an ongoing, never-ending problem. People have had drink problems since day one. I think that what Mike was saying, though, it's not just about drug, alcohol, gambling. It's about just life in general. Be there for people. It's quite a simple message, but it's a message delivered by a guy who is genuinely a good man and who wants to help and make a difference to people, and he is doing so. Sober is Fun, the comedy clubs that he runs, not just a great place to go if you want to be entertained and not have to drink, but it's a great place to perform because he's giving work to people, and there's not a lot of work out there at the moment. So it is all about being the difference and making the difference. If you do know anyone who is struggling with anything at all, be it addiction, be it depression, anything, time to change. Just remember, time to change and Mind, M-I-N-D. These two organizations have got loads of resources, loads of advice, and loads of help. If you type into your search bar, Alcoholics Anonymous, Drug Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous, there's a lot of places out there that can help, will help, and are there to help. However, someone's got to make that approach. And if your friend can't do it, if your neighbor can't do it, if your relative can't do it, then it's down to you. It's down to you to pick up that mantle, as Martyn has done, and be the difference, be that difference. Know that there's a lot of us here that will support you and help you in any way that we can. mensradiostation.com and womensradiostation.com have a lot of resources. The website's got stuff on. There are shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's always something you can go and find that may help you to help yourself or to help other people. At the end of the day, we go to sleep on our own, but during the day, we're not on our own. And it's really important that people realize that. If you know someone who needs help, be that difference. If you need help, let's hope we can find you, reach you, and be there for you. I'll be back next Monday with another great guest and another great show. Stay safe.
Well, that's the end of another great show. What a brilliant guest that was. I could have spoken to them for hours. Don't forget to check out all the other brilliant shows on the mensradiostation.com website, as well as womensradiostation.com as well. Do subscribe to all of our media outlets, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all those things, but tell your friends. Big thank you to Lost Boys UK, who have provided this fantastic music for the show. Check out my website, happytohelpyou.com, We'll be back next week. Really do take care of yourself, and remember, you're not on your own. You're part of the mensradiostation.com family. Take care. Good night.